Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's episode is a video and audio production. So if you want to watch the video, make sure you check us out on YouTube at celestial_fit. We've been doing tons more video podcasts. Like I'd say the majority of the podcasts we've done in the last few months have all been video podcasts. So make sure you guys watch along with us if you want to do that. But today we have a very special guest. We're going to be speaking with a mom of 2 kids who is married to the love of her life and was born and raised in Senegal. I hope I said that correctly. Awesome. Before she came to the United States and graduated from the Air Force Academy, she just started her competition journey in April, and 5 months later, she is qualified for the Olympia. Yes, you heard that correctly. After stepping on stage as a true novice in the Air Force and open categories, she swept the entire show, winning first in every single one of her classes. And then she went on to Junior USA's, where she won her pro card, and then went on to compete in 4 pro shows. And then at her 5th pro show and 7th show ever, that's where she received her Olympia qualification. Really looking forward to hearing this journey and sharing this story. So welcome to the show, Ndeye Ndour. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. I am just doing very well. And thank you for having me on your show.
You are welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. And before we dive into everything, I always like to ask if there is anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Oh gosh. I think probably I pray. I pray a lot before anything I do. So yeah, I pray.
That's awesome. So it's part of your normal routine to thank God or consider Him in your journey.
Absolutely. I mean, and throughout the whole process, because it takes a lot to be able to, wake up every day, do everything I need to do, and still be healthy enough to, work out or do cardio or my nutrition, everything. And honestly, also, it's expensive, to
Yeah.
body build. So I'm just grateful for all the opportunities I've had. And, just being able to do this is a privilege. So I thank God every day for it.
I love that perspective. Sometimes it's an easy perspective to forget because we get so wrapped up in the lifestyle and in the what are we doing next? What are we trying to achieve that we forget what we're doing is so special. It is a blessing and it represents a lot of abundance that the world doesn't have. Like it's giving us choices that most of the world actually doesn't have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I appreciate that a lot. And I think that is beautiful. And I've recognized something about you is your heart of gratitude. Just from reading your Instagram posts, it seems like that's something that you've maintained for many, many years. Is there anything that has influenced that mindset in your life?
I think it's just the fact that I just feel like everything that I ever wanted ends up somewhat happening. And in my country, we call it the work of the mother. So my mom is an angel, and everybody who knows her knows how much of an angel she is. And so we say that if your mom works really hard in her life, that her children get rewarded for it. And so in a certain way, I look at everything that I have in my life and I think of my mom and I think of how hard she has worked in her life. And it makes me think of 2 things. One, very grateful for her and for everything that she's done. And 2, it makes me work harder because I feel like, well, I also have to meet the standards slash exceed them so that my kids kind of get the same karma, good juju that I feel like I've gotten because, you know, there are so many instances in my life that I feel like I can literally feel the hand of God, like things that I wasn't supposed to have, or, things not necessarily I wasn't supposed to have, but things that have happened, um, kind of like in this way with bodybuilding, have happened in a lot of other aspects in my life. And so I feel very blessed all the time, very, very blessed that I have gotten things that my peers have not gotten, pretty much, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a fine way to put it. I love that share from your culture too, the way of the mother. I'm like that, or the work of the mother. That is so beautiful. And I can imagine that once you became a mom, it was a responsibility that you maybe respected, or something you recognized even more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just, and everybody loves being a mom. I've never met a mom who doesn't love it. But I just take it a little bit very seriously because to me, like I said, it's just I'm not just their mom. Everything I do is going to affect their life at the end of the day. And so sometimes I work so hard and I try to accomplish so many things and I try to do all the things that I do just for them, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know you always like, did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, hands down. You know, I've always in my family. Okay, so I grew up an only child until I was 13. And that's when I had a brother. But anytime anybody would have a baby in the family, I would be there. Whether they want me there or not, I'm there. Okay. And I would just take care of the babies, all my little cousins and all that. So I've always had that kind of nurturing, taking care of children type of mentality. And so I could not wait to have my own. And everybody was so happy when I had my own babies because they were like, wow, you finally have your own baby.
That
So,
is so cool.
oh gosh, even, well, so I do anesthesia and for pregnant women, I'll do, let's say, a C-section or, epidurals for laboring moms. And that's my favorite thing to do. You know,
Oh,
there have been times when I just started anesthesia that, we would be doing a C-section. And when the baby comes, the mom is crying, the dad is crying, I'm crying because
yeah.
I'm so happy for them. And it's just so funny, how much I love just that whole experience of being a mom and having babies and all that. So that's something I think is really special.
I love that. You can tell that you're so genuine in that sentiment, and it's something you hold dear to your heart. And you've represented through a lot of your behaviors that you can lead by example, and you are. And you have spoken about how you and your husband have really created an environment, even at home, that allows for health to flourish in your house. So maybe you can walk us through not just a normal day, but also what you've cultivated at home that you think is setting your kids up for success.
Yeah, I mean, so we're both uber nerds about things. And oh yeah, gosh, it's crazy. Our conversations are like, hey, do you think I should eat this and this and this because of blah blah blah? And do you think I should do this type of workout at this time and this? So we are just uber nerds and we are trying to do all the research that we can do so that when the kids are ready, I mean, they have a blueprint. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to, because when you see all the great athletes, you go back to their stories, it's like, well, at 3 years old, Tiger Woods was swinging bats or whatever, and his parents, like, groomed him for that. So as parents, we were thinking, hey, how can we give our kids literally the best start they could ever have? And it's by educating ourselves. So let's say we eat based upon our blood types. So my husband has a very different diet than I do.
Mm.
He has, yeah, he's a AB blood type. I'm O positive. And so I eat for O positive. He eats for AB. And then we try to, figure out what the kids can eat as well based upon their blood types. So a typical day, we wake up, I do my posing practice. He does a huge breakfast shake. I'm so jealous. It's like, those Vitamix, the big ones. He
Yeah,
does it. And I'm so, so, so jealous. But growing season will come and I'll do that type of stuff. But
exactly.
yeah, he does that. And then kids eat eggs for breakfast and they go to school. Then I go to work and we don't see each other again until the evening, unfortunately. But just little things that we try to do is just set up a good workout schedule. He does jujitsu. He's actually a jujitsu champion. And so
Wow.
depending on who is competing that week, it's like how they say marriage is never 50-50. It's always, this week you got more, this week I have more. And so we try to plan based upon that. When he has a meet, obviously he's the priority. And I do everything on my end so that, he can come home, sauna, cold tub, whatever he needs to do while I take care of the kids. Versus when it's me in peak week, it's the opposite. Then he takes care of
Mm.
the kids while, I do all my recovery, going to bed, I have this thing where I try to beat the sun. So I'm like, I need to go to bed before the sun goes down because, I really prioritize sleep. I will prioritize sleep over cardio. So yeah, just little things like that we try to do. And also the source where we source our foods. For instance, we'll get a half cow every so often. And that's how we get our meat. And it's from a local farm. And we, know what's going on with how the cow is raised and everything. The rest of the meats we get from Crowd Cow online. So we barely buy meat from the store. We only do when we're like, completely out or crunch time. Um, yeah, we just do a lot of research about nutrition because I really do believe that that's number one, not even just for bodybuilding, but just for longevity in general.
Was that part of your life before you committed to competing? Mm.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people talk about my genetics, and I do agree genetics is a big, big part of how I've been successful in bodybuilding so far. But I also think that nutrition has been huge. Nutrition and just learning my body because I'm not doing, you know, crazy cardio. I'm not doing anything that's and I'm not saying this to, talk down about any other process, but I've heard of protocols that there's no way I could do that with everything that I have to do during the day. And so the only way I'm able to present the physique that I'm presenting on stage, I think is literally just learning my body and fueling it the way that it's supposed to be fueled.
That is such a refreshing perspective because majority of people, as you've probably learned over the last like 6 months in this industry, do things based on what an app tells them to do or what the numbers say. And while we do need to be, focused on data, there is a level of personal intuition and responsibility that goes into this. And it sounds like you have valued health and nutrition and your longevity and what you're putting in your body for a long time. So while your genetics are awesome, and we're not going to argue that they're not, that your genetics wouldn't be showcased the way that they are without the diligence that you've put in. And you deserve that recognition versus dismissal of, oh, it's her genetics. That's what, well, if that was really all it was, this would look very different. So I love that you can say there's more that you don't see day to day. And I can imagine part of that too is like there's got to be an identity behind that. Like you're somebody who cares for her kids and you want to be healthy and you want to live a long life. And you're also a nurse. So you add on top of that, there's already like you're literally working in the healthcare field seeing this. So I can imagine that by treating your body this way, entering the competing world, that's very much like numbers focused. What you're doing is you're almost breathing life into, hey, you can have macros, but be strategic with those macros. Instead of it being what can I fit in, it's about, well, what already meets the needs for my health. And I just find that very refreshing.
And another huge piece about this is my coach, Paul Revelia. So when I first started, this whole bodybuilding thing, I was doing research and I came across his YouTube channel. And so I have an hour long drive to work and an hour long drive back. And so I would just watch his videos a whole lot. And I have learned a lot about, fat loss and whatnot from his videos. And so the first time I met him, I remember I felt like it was actually at junior nationals when I got my pro card. And back then he wasn't even my coach yet. And I saw him and I was like, oh my God, can I please get a picture with you? And he was just so nice, like such a very down to earth guy. And every single time I've seen him at shows afterwards, it was just such a breeze to talk to him.
Mm.
And I think that's also why I ended up joining his team. But and I'm so glad he's having me because at
Oh,
some point we had to just crunch time and didn't even get to really get to know each other, but it really worked out extremely well, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, part of it too is really having a coach who is conscientious and very geared towards knowing his athletes based upon, I mean, I'm very different from, let's say, a Daraja or someone else he has, but I feel like when I talk to him, he knows my body and also like caters to what I need to get done that week, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. I'm so glad you brought up Paul. So he's actually been on this podcast, you guys, in a
Oh,
coaches series. Yeah, I did a coaches series a long time ago. Paul was featured.
yeah.
So if you guys want to check that out, you can. But I was going to ask you about Paul. I actually thought you'd been working with him this whole time. So did you prep yourself? And you don't have to share whether you did or didn't, or who you worked with or didn't if you don't feel comfortable, but did you prep yourself in those first couple shows
So
as a
there are times when I did prep myself. There are times when I did my own nutrition and workout and everything. But I got with Paul, it was for, let me think. It was for one of the pro shows, and I'm trying to think which one. Oh, it was no. So yeah, we first prepped together for San Antonio. No, or was it Bottle of the Bodies? Bottle of
Okay.
the Bodies is when we started. So it was my third pro show.
Okay, got it. See, I found out about you because my friend Lexi,
Yeah,
yeah, so we just did an event together in Florida and she had posted about you when she was backstage at, I want to say it was San Antonio.
it was San Antonio.
Yeah, and I was like, what the heck? Who's this rock star she's with? And that's when I started to learn about you. And I'm curious, when you decided I'm gonna hire Paul, you said you guys didn't have a lot of time to get to know each other, but quickly you guys got in your rhythm and you pursued greatness. But there was a time when you won your pro card, you weren't sure if you were even gonna go make a pro debut. You said you were contemplating it. So what tipped the scale to be like, what, actually I am gonna do this? Because that ultimately led to where we're at now.
Yeah, and I'm so glad. This is also, I guess, the other thing that I was talking about earlier, where sometimes I really feel God's hand in my life. So I'm very stress free, right? Like if you know me, I'm super stress free. I live my life. If something happens, I'm like, oh, well, okay, how do I fix it? Can I fix it? Can I not? And I move on. Because I mean, I have to be like that at my job. Like I put people to sleep and I can't freak out. So pretty much what happened was I got my pro card and I was like, okay, these pro girls, they're huge. And, I'm scared of them. So I'm going to grow for a whole year. And then that's when I'll be, competitive. Then next thing you know, I actually had two surgeries and a car accident. And then at some point, I was like, you know what? Well, before I do all of this growing or whatever, whatnot, maybe I should hit a pro stage and see, how big they actually are, get compared to them, and then tailor the whole growing or how much I need based upon that. And so I was like, okay, well then let's try to decide which show we're going to do. I'm a big sentimental person and I always want things to mean something. So I looked at the schedule and there was that class show in August. And I thought, well, that's the stage where I got my pro card. It would be very, very, neat to just make my pro debut over there. Because we don't have pro shows. Well, we do have a pro show around this area, but it's only masters. So I couldn't have done my pro debut on the stage where I had my actual NPC debut. So long story short, I decided to do the clash and then find out Isa Piccini is doing the show. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh my God. And when I got third at that show, I was like, well, maybe I don't need to grow as much as I thought I did. So I was like, well, let me just keep going and see what happens. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah. Honestly, I remember that show because that's where your teammate got her qualification, I believe, right? Ariana got it there.
Ariana actually qualified the weekend before. And
Okay, and then Issa took it that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay, that was an amazing comparison for you to be a part of. You're next to someone who's just been qualified for the Olympia, someone who's won the Olympia and been on the stage multiple times, and you're placing third, and you're like, what? I just decided to see how I stack up. Clearly, I'm stacking up good. So you pursued this. What was the feedback you got at the first pro show?
At the first pro show, it was Sandy judging, actually. And God, I
Oh,
love that woman. She's so such an amazing person. And she told me, actually, Sandy told me tighten up and go do another show. Because I think my biggest issue is my midsection, obviously. Just had two kids, so I'm not gonna be as tight as everybody. But and I know there are lots of moms on the stage, so this is not, me boohooing about it. It's just me saying this is what I need to work on.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I've just been like, okay, well, let me just keep tightening up and keep showing up at shows. And yeah, so that was pretty much my feedback. And I feel like every single show, that's literally my feedback. They tell me nobody can touch your back pose. You have the best back pose. Just tighten up your front. And so, yeah, I just keep tightening and keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. Actually, one of our listeners, I was going to save the listener questions till the end, but they asked this, so I'm going to chime this one in.
Yeah.
She asked, after having kids, do you have to get a tummy tuck or anything else to get back to a previous normal?
So I did not get a tummy tuck. I did not, get anything like that. If you go onto my Instagram, there is actually a video where I show the separation in my abs. But honestly, I think it's just gonna have to be something that you learn how to pose with and I don't want to use flaws because that's not a flaw. When I see how my body has changed from my kids, I'm proud. I call it my
Mhm.
tiger mom body or whatever. So you just have to learn how to pose to make those less noticeable. Um, I wouldn't be able to know, what a tummy tuck would do because I didn't get one. I had two C-sections and I have this diastasis recti going on. So TMI, but I just try to pose and Paul and I try to peek a certain way to see what my belly would look like this way or that way. And that's just what we do. We just try to work with our um I don't want to say flaws, and I'm trying to find another word, but I can't think of one right now.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean. It's an area of which the judges have determined needs to be improved, but
Exactly.
it's not a flaw on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love it. It's a very prideful thing for me. I'm proud of it. I'm very
Mm,
proud of it because not everybody gets to be a mom, and I also respect that.
absolutely. And it's so inspiring for people like myself who want to be a mom and want to compete. I get
Yes.
to see you living this dream and owning how your body has changed in that process too, and saying it's a beautiful thing. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for this.
Yeah.
And your feedback has been so good. And I mean, it sounds like you and Paul are working together to make certain adjustments to improve. And are you doing another show before the Olympia?
I am. I am. So I mean, we're just gonna put it out. So I'm gonna do Hurricane
Nice.
next weekend, and I'm extremely excited. We're gonna show them a whole nother, I mean, well, it's a new judge, first of all, that I haven't seen, which is
Oh,
great. I like to do that, just to get feedback from multiple judges. He's an Olympia judge too, so I would like to see what he has to say to me before the Olympia. So it's really gonna be a big recon trip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Regretfully and excitedly, this podcast is going to come out like 2 weeks after the Olympia.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're sharing this because we get to almost reflect back. And I was like, I gotta ask her this question because
Yes.
it's not often I get to speak to someone who's first time Olympian. So a lot of people are talking about you, right? Let's say you won the Olympia
Oh
this
my
year.
goodness.
What would your acceptance speech or that moment, what would that sound like?
Oh my goodness. I just got goosebumps when you said that. I have looked up to so many, so many, so many amazing athletes who I'm going to share the stage with. And just that I cannot believe is happening. Now, if you told me that they would pick me over all of them, I mean, I wouldn't even I wouldn't even know what to say, to be honest. I'd probably go there, cry my eyes out, say thank you, and walk off because I would be in shock. That's literally what would happen. I would be in shock. Um, I uh, I just feel so grateful for everything that has happened. And if that happened, I mean, it would be nothing short of a miracle, and I would be very, very grateful. So it probably have to be I would say thank you and cry and walk away.
Yeah.
Really. That's what would
Pure
happen.
and utter shock and gratitude.
Yeah, I would just be in shock and yeah, I would probably look for my kids and cry with them somewhere.
No. Yeah, honestly, like your stage presence and poise is beautiful. I kept watching your video from Gilco. I was like, she just has that it factor about her. And when I'm thinking about your journey, I'm like, and this is not, I'm not asking this in any way to say that you should feel this way because I actually think that you have so much to be proud of and you've earned your spot, right? So we don't want to minimize that. But my question is, have you experienced any sort of like imposter syndrome or guilt or resistance knowing you achieved a goal in 5 months that others have worked for like decades to achieve?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like um I'm always the person, and not even just in bodybuilding. I always want to encourage everybody. I always want to, if somebody tells me they have a goal, I don't care what it is. Their goal can be, oh, I want to be a butterfly catcher on Fridays. I will be your biggest supporter. I'll be behind you. I'll be clapping every Friday. I'll text you, hey, how many butterflies did we catch today? So that's the type of person I am. And so it's a little bit difficult for me right now, because sometimes I'll see athletes who have been really trying to qualify for a long time. And let's say I want to send them a message and say, hey, good luck this weekend or whatever. And I kind of feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't, because it's like, it's weird, it's this girl who came on like 2, 3 months ago to the pro stage. Now she's qualified and now she thinks she can, give me encouragement. You know what I mean? So I've definitely felt that type of way, to where, and the other part too is I didn't even realize this, right? Sometimes I got down on myself. I was like, oh my God, I got fourth at this pro show. And my coach would tell me, and Paul is amazing. He would be like, you do you realize that you beat a lot of girls who've been doing this years and years and years, And so I feel like for the longest time, I did not realize what it was that I was accomplishing. And it's not until I heard other people's stories, and I'll bring her up because I'm also very happy for her qualification. But let's say Jessica, I mean, she's
Yes.
30 pro shows. She's been trying for 5 years, I mean, 5 years ago, what is it that I was doing? Oh my gosh, who knows what I was doing 5 years ago? And so for me to qualify, and then, you know, it, 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 it's just amazing. And like you said, sometimes I definitely do feel that way. And I try really hard to find ways to remain true to myself, and still be this bubbly, encouraging people, and trying to make somebody's day better by leaving them, but at the same time not having them feel like, what is this rookie telling me?
Mm, that's so interesting. Like that's why I just felt I have to ask this because it's such a sensitive thing that I can see I might experience or go through, that I was like, I would regret not wondering if you experience that. And, on one hand, we know you've absolutely earned this. Like
Yeah.
there's no doubt you're an Olympian.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you have that voice, maybe, in the back of your head, like, you're a rookie who just started. But it's like, it's one of those weird things too, because ignorance is bliss. Like at the beginning,
Yeah.
you didn't realize, and now it's like, oh snap, like this is the real deal. And I think I think no matter what, like your energy and who you are speaks so much, like just you radiate a lot of that kindness. So yeah. And to mention to the listeners too, Jessica Dolias has been on this podcast as well.
Oh, great.
Yes, so if you guys want to check out that episode, go back and check it out. She is awesome, and that was a moment. And I just love how you can recognize, like, I'm like, you're seeing like, yeah, this is a big deal. I can support and encourage others. And I think a lot of people would receive it so graciously. But yeah, I was just so curious. And to then speak to that further, to go from a true novice, to an Olympian, I think that would really stretch your mindset in a lot of ways. So how has this maybe changed the way you view yourself over the last 6 months, if at all?
I think it didn't really change how I view myself. I think what had changed how I view myself was graduating from the Air Force Academy. Because I think
Mm.
that, yeah, that was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. And well, I'll give you a short little snippet of how I got there.
Yeah.
My dad is a pilot, and so I grew up watching Top Gun, and I didn't even speak English, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. This is what I want to do. So long story short, he sends me to the Air Force Academy, but doesn't tell me what it is. And
Oh, wow. How old were you?
I was 19.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I'm crying every night. I want to come home. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. This is not me, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't let me. He's like, nope, you're going to be there and you're just going to finish. And so I feel like I've gone through so much, and grew so much that that period of my life. It was 4 years of, I don't think I can do this, to, oh, I've done it, you know? And so I think that's what has changed my life.
Mm.
And I recommend anybody to go to a service academy. Air Force is better, but everybody go. My kids are going. I don't care what they say. Both of them are going. Because I just learned so much about myself, about others, and about how to approach life.
Mm.
And with that, anything I put my mind to, my thought process is this is going to be hard, but I will do it. And it will happen. It may take 2 months, may take 3 months, may take however long it takes. But if I want to do something, I have no doubt in my mind that it will happen. So when people say, oh, what if you won the Olympia? I don't know that it's going to happen this time, but one day I will win the Olympia. And I have no doubt about that because I know I will put the work in and I will do every single thing the judges tell me. If they tell me, hey, your left elbow is blue, I needed purple, I'll be like, okay, got it. Next time I show up, best believe it'll be purple, you know? And
Mm.
so yeah, so I don't think this experience has changed me necessarily. I think if anything, it had solidified in my mind that there are things that I can do if I just put my mind to it. And I mean, same thing with my professional life. I went to nursing school and then became a cardiac ICU nurse. And when I said I was going to go to anesthesia school, I remember people telling me, oh, you have to wait until you have like 6 years of experience and whatever, whatnot. And so I applied and I got in the first school that I applied to. And people
Wow.
usually apply after 6 years and they apply to two, three, four schools, and only one of them may take them in 3 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I had 6 months of ICU experience, applied to one school, and got in. When I got in, it was very, very difficult schooling again, but put my mind to it and got done. So, everywhere I go, I'm the usually the youngest nurse anesthesiologist there. And so that was another pretty much moment in my life, like I was explaining earlier, where I literally feel God's hand. And again, that's why also when I was going to go for these pro shows and they're like, oh, either grow for a year or don't go for your pro card yet or things like that. I'm like, you know what? No, no. So many times in my life, people told me, oh, you should wait because other people waited. I'm like, no, just go for it.
The limitations that so many people put on their mind and it infects other minds. It takes a lot of courage to say, I don't foresee that future for me. Let me try it this way.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too is people are scared of failure. They are very, very scared of failure. It's like, well, what if I go to a nationals and then I fail? I'm like, well, if you fail, that's okay because it's learning, right? You're gonna get a national level judge who will tell you, oh, well, we just didn't like X, Y, or Z. So what that is now is your new plan, X, Y, and Z. So
Mhm.
instead of thinking of it as, oh my gosh, I failed, think of it as, wow, this was a great learning opportunity. And next time they see me, they will see an improved package.
Love
So
that.
yeah, that's
That's
kind of
such an encouraging point of view.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, it sounds like that's helped you in so many areas of your life, like taking that leap of faith. Now, granted, one of those was your dad putting you into that situation, which I can't imagine waking up and being like, you realize what's actually happening. What did you think was happening? And then when did you find out, wait, I'm in the Air Force Academy?
So, well, I realized I was going to a military academy, right? And that, but I thought it was college, like I'm going to college and it's like, yeah, I'll wear a uniform, but I'm just going to college. So, basic training was just rocked my world, completely rocked my world. I mean, just okay. So, one funny thing when they issued us our boots, I was into Timberlands back then and I thought I was a cool kid. So, I laced them like Timberlands, showing up to basic training. So, you can only imagine they chewed me out. It was
Oh,
hilarious.
no.
Oh my God. It was just so funny. But yeah, so I just didn't realize the whole like rigorous military training that would go with the academics, because I've always been a nerd. So academics has always been not necessarily easy, but it's been something that I enjoy. But I just didn't realize the military portion and the physical fitness portion that I would have to um, go through.
What were some of the things you did in the academy that you have continued to do after the fact?
Huh. I guess probably I would say I learned to be very efficient with my time.
Mhm.
So I think, because I mean, right now I work a full-time job. I have two kids that I really want to be present for. I have a husband that I want to be present for. Um, my parents live here too now. And on top of that, I need to do my cardio. I need to work out. I need to get 8 hours of sleep. I need to make sure that, all the groceries and everything is good. And I also have commercial property that we manage. I also have rentals that I manage. So there's just so much in my life. But the busier I am, the better I feel like I am with my time, because I
Mhm.
literally sometimes set an alarm. Okay, I'm going to work on this for an hour. Then I take a 10-minute break. Then I work on this for an hour. So I have like this time schedule of from 8 to 9, I'm doing this. From 9 to 10, I'm doing this. And then I also want to always have time to have fun. So that is also all included in there. And so I guess time management, I would say, is the one thing that I have taken from there and that I still do. And when people tell me, oh, I don't have time for this, I'm like, you just don't want to make time for this. So,
Agreed. I think we underestimate how much time we really do have
yeah,
because so much of what we do is just done inefficiently or it's not done with the level of focus it could be because of when we're doing it in our day.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up too, the time of the day. I strategically put certain things at certain times of the day, like let's say I need to talk to somebody about something. They say it's better to do it before lunch, because after lunch you talk to them and they're either in a diabetic coma or they're so tired from everything that they've done
Uh-huh.
all day that they don't want to talk to you. So strategically, I talk to people in the morning if I need their attention or I need something from them. Um,
Mhm.
I try to work out in the morning so that my body is not all riled up in the evening, so I can get a good night
Beat
of
the
sleep.
sun.
Yeah, beat the sun. Literally beat the sun. Works. I may not actually beat the sun, but because I have that goal, I'm in bed by like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it's great.
What time do you wake up?
It depends. I try to wake up at 5 a.m. most times,
Yes.
most days. But yeah, it just depends. Yeah. And I mean, when I say beat the sun, I'll go to bed, but I'm doing all of this breathing technique. I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
You, Wim Hof, I love his breathing techniques. And, he's the one who has a record for holding his breath for however long, swimming under ice cold water. He's a beast. But yeah, so I do all my hippie stuff at night, my breathing, my meditation, my be a good person stuff.
I love that. See,
Yeah.
you've just really, this is the stuff that I think is great insight. It's the inner workings of a champion. We, to a champion, this is normal life. This is just stuff that you do. So sometimes when you've been doing it for so long, it feels like, ah, yeah, this is normal, But for someone else, they hear this and they're like, oh my gosh, why haven't I been doing that? Or wow, that one shift could make a big difference. And I love how you said that it was the academy that really brought that out of you, not so much competing. Competing was almost like a way you could continue to apply and challenge yourself with the tools you gained. But it was really the academy that instilled that. And I think it's so special too that your dad put you in that situation. It's like he recognized your passion from watching Top Gun. But what I was thinking is you said you didn't understand English, yet you watched it and you were enthused by it. when did you start learning English, and what was that what brought you to America?
Well, so, you take a foreign language in high school. So I took English, Arabic, and Spanish. And
Oh,
so,
no big deal. Just
oh,
all of those. No
um,
problem.
no. So that's how I learned English. And but coming to the States, if you took Spanish in high school and they threw you in Spain, you wouldn't necessarily, be able to be fluent or anything. So that's kind of how I was when I got here. I could speak English, I could understand, but you throw in the military jargon and, oh gosh, sarcasm. I did not get sarcasm for the longest time.
Oh no.
And people would say things. I was like, oh my God, these Americans are so mean and blah, blah, blah. It was so funny. And then I started getting it and I was like, oh, wow, this is fun. This is really fun. Uh,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, but yeah. And just to tell you another story about this whole English thing, the first time my husband ever talked to me, I just looked at him and walked away because one, I was intimidated because he's just this beautiful human. And two, I was like, well, when I don't understand what somebody tells me, I just walk away because I was too embarrassed to say, I don't understand. Please repeat yourself. I was like, they're going to think I'm dumb. So just walk away. So he asked me what was for dinner at our little, well, we had this place at the academy where we got dinner and it was called Mitch's. And so the joke now is the first thing he's ever told me is what's for dinner. And that's what he keeps telling me every day, what's for dinner. So,
He manifested with that one.
oh gosh, yeah. So that's a little story about my English.
So cute. I love that story. I want to talk more about your relationship too, because you did mention it's important to prioritize that. You prioritize your kids, you prioritize your relationship, prioritize having fun. So how has your husband adapted and been influenced in this lifestyle? Because I see him active in your training sessions, I see him pushing you, see him at your shows, um, see him like uplifting you. And you had mentioned that in another interview that it was like at a function of some sort, you threw out the idea of competing with another girl that you were there with. So how has he maybe adapted from just talking about it to now being totally entrenched in it?
Oh gosh, he's my biggest supporter, my biggest fans. He's been out of town this week and every morning he's like, send me your check-in because he knows that,
Aw,
I'll do my practice and I take a video. He's like, send me your check-in. I want to know what you look like. He's trying to learn everything he can.
wow.
And I mean, this is my first athletic pretty much endeavor. He's been an athlete his whole life. I mean,
Hmm.
he wrestled in high school, did really well. He played football, did really well at the academy. He is a jiu-jitsu champion. He's a two times champion right now. So I think for him, just coming from an athlete standpoint, he's just trying to help me with the things he knows that I don't know,
Mm.
right? And he's so happy right now because he keeps telling me, "Oh, now you understand why I had to do blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yes." And so I think this has brought us even closer to each other
Mm.
because we can relate on another level instead of me just being like, why are you doing this? Or not even being judgmental that way, but just being completely oblivious to what it takes to excel in a sport. And so I feel like he just absolutely is involved. He wants to be involved. He loves this. He's from Columbus, Ohio, so he loves bodybuilding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this. And he grew up with,
Arnold.
Arnold and the book and Arnold this, Arnold that posters. Like we have an Arnold poster over here somewhere that he's had for years. And so it's just really, I think, something that has definitely brought us closer to each other. He loves it. I love it. He's helping me. And yeah, yeah. I am very grateful for that because I have heard of people who have, lost their relationship because of this, or they have tension because one partner doesn't necessarily understand or agree, or because it's rigorous. I mean, we sit here and we'll get all glammed up and get on stage, but the weeks before that it's a grind.
Exactly. It's not, yeah, it's not just what you see on stage. And many of the women I've spoken with have shared their sentiments on relationship impact, and some who are single and how hard it is to date
Right.
for, because it's like, well, everyone wants to take you out to dinner, but you're trying to go on a walk and get your steps in. Like, it's just not happening. But, from hearing it that your husband is so supportive and excited, and that I think is encouraging too for people to know it's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm also wondering how you guys have maintained and built your marriage. I know you said it positively impacted you, right? Because you guys can relate more to each other. Are there certain things that you guys do, maybe rhythms you're in together that you think support you in growing together? Because you have other endeavors too with businesses, things you're managing. So just curious how that looks to like grow together.
Our marriage wasn't always like this, right? And I've talked to a lot of people who've been married, like let's say 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I love to talk to them because I feel like they have such a different perspective on marriage. So we've been married 7 years. And obviously at the beginning, it's just, oh my gosh, you're just happy to be married. It's this person, you have your forever, and it's great. And we went through a very, very rough patch during COVID. Excuse me. Um, so he was deployed and we went through a very, very rough patch. I mean, we called it at some point,
Yeah.
just to be completely transparent. But when he got back, he was just like, no, I want to do this life with you. And it's you're my person. And so we decided to rekindle and
Mm.
yeah, yeah, get things back on track. And I feel like from that point on, we decided to choose each other every day and just not that marriage became a job, but it stopped being this thing that we just let freely flow, right? We
Mm.
had to be intentional about, okay, so one of my biggest issues was he's gone a lot. And so when he's gone, he made it a point to be present in certain ways, like not just like, let's say the phone calls or the text messages, but let's say before he leaves, he tried to plan something out for me, like, oh, like plan something about my diet or my workout or something that when that day came, let's say it was Wednesday or Thursday, I thought about him. I was like, oh, well, he thought about doing this for me, you know? Um, so he's also my business partner. So we talk business together. We, you know, try to find ways to make things better and research this, research that. We go on business trips together. We went to Brazil actually last year, almost at this time in November, because we want to open the Brazilian steakhouse. And that was just so fun. We went there, ate our hearts out.
I bet.
Oh my God, it was the best trip ever. And I can't wait to go back. You
Oh,
know, Side story, I digress a lot, but that's probably one of
I
the
love that.
few countries that I would want to live at other than, Senegal if I ever moved out of the States. But back to the marriage thing, I think we're just being extremely intentional about each other. Him asking me for my check-ins. It's a little thing,
Goes a long way.
yeah, maybe he looks at it, maybe he doesn't look at it, but that makes me feel good that, hey, I woke up at 5 a.m., did this thing, and my partner cares and recognizes, that I did that. And also
Yeah.
I remember his last jiu-jitsu competition. I had just had surgery and I could barely walk, but I made it a point to go and I was in a lot of pain, but I just wanted to be there for him. And he also, recognized that. So I think for us, we just intentionally try to be there for each other. We try to recognize what the other is really passionate about at that moment. And we try to be together in that moment.
I love that. You guys have invested in each other like every day and giving and supporting. And I appreciate that vulnerability too, and sharing that there was a time where yes, that's it, let's call it. It's not going to work out, but came around and decided to, no, you know what, it will. It's hard sometimes, I think, to know what is a change you can move past and work through, and what is one that you can't. So when you decided we can, was that mutual, or was there more discussion where you're like, this has to be in place, this has to change, or did that evolve naturally with you guys?
You know, that's a very, very good question. And I'll answer it with two ways.
Great.
Well,
Yes.
one, I've had other friends who've had marital issues, and I kept asking them, well, what is the problem? And they would say it's blah, 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 blah. And I kept telling them, well, this is what I would tell you. You have to just realize that this person you have chosen to be your partner. And you just need to make sure that it works out no matter what. I mean, unless it's like, let's say, abuse or, things like that, that obviously that's just not okay. Make it work, because no problem, there's a solution to every problem. You
Mm.
may think at the time that there is none, but if you work on it hard enough, it will work out and you will feel so fulfilled once that is solved. Because in my own marriage, when I thought there was a problem that could not be fixed, I'm telling you right now that it is. We have such an amazing relationship. I mean, I love my husband so much, and I know he loves me so much. And we have just this bond because we've gone through hell, but we came out and we came out together. We came out hugging. And I feel like that bond can never be broken. It's something so special. Like right now, I see him and he's my everything, you know? And so I want that for other people. So when they tell me, oh, this is the problem, that's the problem, I'm like, no, work on it. Work on it as hard as you can, because once it's fixed, you'll look at this person and this person will be your hero. This person will
Mm.
be the person that was there for you when you thought nothing was going to be better, you know? Um, yeah, and I kind of forgot the other point I was going to make, but yeah, I think honestly that's pretty much the gist of it. Just work on it. Don't give up. Don't you give up, because
I
it can
love.
get better. And the grass is not greener. That was my other point. Like if you think, okay, well, I'm not going to work on this relationship. Okay, what are the alternatives? Either you stay single, and if that's what you want, then hey, more power to you. Or you're going to go have this relationship with someone else. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have the same issue because,
Mm.
the issue happened partly because of you. So
Mm.
if you go to another person, it's going to manifest as well. It might not be as pronounced as it would be with this other person, but it will show itself. So you may as well just work on it with this person.
Yeah,
And, you know, so
totally. And
that's
sometimes it's more kind of different. Yeah, it does make sense. And when we live in a society where it's easy to go say, I'm done here, I'm
right,
gonna go get the next one.
right.
And it definitely creates a toss away mentality instead of a work through it mentality.
Yeah,
And I love hearing you say that you guys overcame something that almost took you guys apart,
yeah.
because that is the reality. And you're just so refreshing. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your honesty, seriously, because it's the stuff that we all face, and yet um is more sometimes difficult to talk about or admit. And you do it with such class.
Mm.
So I admire that.
I mean, I just hope somebody can hear this and, get something from it, because I
Mm.
had really good people at the time telling me, work on it, work on it, work on it. And so if me saying work on it can save one marriage out there, then I'm happy to share
Oh,
whatever I had
yeah.
to share for it to happen.
I love that. That's such, I always say one person, it makes all the difference. Even if only one person's life is touched by one thing that you say, it means something. And nothing is too small of a change because it always ends up snowballing.
Right.
And I want to ask you this question from one of our listeners.
Yeah.
So actually, this one was from my boyfriend. So he says, when did you decide you wanted to be a pro? Like if you knew you wanted to be a pro, and were all of your family and friends supportive?
Well, so, okay. When I competed in my first NPC show, I was very, very apprehensive. Not
Mm.
necessarily apprehensive because I didn't want to do it, but because
Yeah.
everybody was telling me, oh gosh, this is going to be extremely competitive and, it's a big show and whatever, whatnot. And so in my mind, knowing how um, competitive I am, I was like, oh gosh, if this doesn't go well, I don't know what's going to happen next. And so when I go to the show and I mean, I literally had so many trophies that people told me you were like Beyonce at the Oscars. And you know what? No, not even. But after that, I realized, well, maybe I'm decent at this. I've never been the sports type of girl. I keep telling people hand-eye coordination is just not there. When God was giving that, He didn't give me any. So I got used to not being good at sports. And so for me to be good at something physical, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll keep going. And so to decide, well, do I want to be pro? I just figured if I went to a nationals show, then I would get feedback from the judges who, if I didn't get my pro card, they would tell me, this is what you need to work on. And so that's kind of how I saw it, because the other argument is to do more NPC shows and, get more practice, which I think is also valuable. I think there are some people that definitely um, like to have more practice so they feel more confident on stage. They feel more confident with their bodies or, anything like that. So there are just two different paths, and my path was to go to nationals and try it out, and I got my pro card.
So
So
cool.
I'm
Yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah, it's amazing. You are continuously like a theme in your life is saying, I'm gonna go my way. Like I get where you're coming from. I hear what you're saying,
Yes,
but let me see what's happening
yes,
over
yes. And then it's like a lot of faith. Like if you hear me talk all day, I just have a lot of faith. And it's just innate in me. I feel like, it's funny because one of the surgeons I work with, she calls me her lucky charm,
here.
because
Oh,
she'll come and she'll say, oh, this surgery is going to be difficult. And I'll be like, but you know what? You have me in your room. I'm going to do great anesthesia and this case is going to be great. And it's going to finish quickly. Let's say she thinks it's going to be 6 hours. I'm like, no, we're going to do it in 4 hours. It's going to be great. We'll just do it. And then it happens. And then she says,
love
yeah. I was like, yeah, I told you, you just have to believe in yourself, have a positive attitude, try to be good. And hey, keep on keeping on. Good things
that.
happen in life. I know bad things do happen, but good things do happen too.
Yeah. Sometimes in the trouble, it's hard to remember that, but it's very true. And love that mentality and expecting the good to happen instead of the bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just seeing the blessing in every little thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because it really is a blessing to have those experiences. And even when it's a challenge, there's something generally we get to take from it, or it contributes to our life story in some way. And it's a very beautiful thing. And I love that you're able to give that to other people too.
I try. I really do try. Try to be as positive as I can be. There's too
Yeah.
much negativity in the world. So, you know, if I can put positivity somewhere, I will. It may look weird to people. I feel like sometimes some people are like, this girl is kind of weird, but it's good because, I'm foreign. So foreign people are weird anyways. I feel like I can say that because I am foreign. So
Yes.
if I'm overly nice, so I'm overly like cheerful, it's just realize that I'm just trying to be a little butterfly in the world, sprinkling
Mhm.
happiness.
I
So
love that. Get little glitter all over the world.
yes, yes. You get some and you get some and you get some.
Oh, that's too cute. So, two more listener questions.
All right.
They're random, so they don't really necessarily tie in. That's
Okay.
why I'm gonna save them for the end. So, what is your biggest piece of advice for physical change with regards to consistency? I'm assuming what they meant by that is like, what are you doing consistently to create physical change? But I guess that's how I would have interpreted it.
Okay. So about physical change, I would say that I really, really, really pay attention to my body. Um, so I really try to have my workout plan, okay, based upon my body. So I have an Oura ring,
Mm.
um, and it tracks my sleep, my recovery, all of those things. And so it really helps me out a lot in my physical training because I will base my training on this. And I know it's like, nerd science, but I always say nerd science plus bro science. Yeah. And then you have magic happen there. So I pay attention to my body because I've seen so many athletes who have followed a coach's plan. Not to say that some coaches are not good, but who have followed a coach's plan to a point where they're not bikini anymore, or they look completely different from what they're supposed to look like based on the criteria. And I'm like, well, this didn't happen overnight, like, why did you let yourself get to that point and not say anything or think anything, um and also just making sure you're really current on what the criteria is, because I feel like it has changed definitely over the last year. And so I think a lot of people are having these thoughts of, oh my gosh, I need to look like this, or I need to build. And I tell them, no, you don't need to build, or me, myself, I thought I needed a year to build. And I'm glad I went and looked, because had I not done that, I would have built for a year and be completely out of the criteria.
Yeah.
So I think physical development really comes down to paying attention to the criteria, paying attention to your body, and trying to match those two as best as possible. Don't just go onto a workout plan and just be so diligent about the workout plan that you're not paying attention to other things.
Love that. Really staying tuned in on the
Yeah.
journey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go watch shows, look at who they picked, because sometimes pictures don't do it justice, right? Like, you see pictures, there are some pictures I look small, there are some pictures I look big. And I'm like, wow, this is funny because in the one where I look small, I'm bigger than in the one where I look big,
Yeah.
Yeah, the stage lighting will do things. So go to shows if you're in an area where you have that availability, and look at people, look at who they pick, look at who you think would win, and then see what they said. So just staying
Yes.
current, staying educated, and paying attention to your own training.
Love that. Like being a student and a fan and a participant and making sure that it's strategic execution
Yeah.
versus like blind execution.
Yes. 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 That is definitely important.
So this one is the last listener question.
Okay.
What is your favorite breakfast meal?
Ooh, wow. Oh, God. Okay. Too easy. I'm going to tell you. So I love crepes. Oh my gosh, I love
Mm.
crepes. I really, really do. And so I figured out a way to make a crepe with very little ingredients, pretty much a whole egg. And instead of the regular flour, I do protein powder. and then
Mm.
just add water and make my crepe, and then add stevia, sprinkle some cinnamon powder on that. And do
Mhm.
not tell me that this doesn't taste like a Cinnabon or whatever, whatnot. It's just great. And the
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I get so happy when I can find those type of things that I can do in prep. I mean, obviously I don't do that in peak week. Peak week is very, very dialed in, but yeah. So just a makeshift crepe and it's just
Love that. That sounds good. I'll have to try that sometime, like with the whole egg with the little bit of water. Because I've done like egg white oat pancake and then like
yeah.
roll it up with like stuff it with yogurt and fruit or whatever. Like a kind of like a crepe, but not
Yeah.
so. I like the way that sounds, like super smooth.
Yes. Oh, it's delicious.
If you're looking for competition heels, jewelry, and fun competitor extras, then visit shoefairyofficial.com and use code CELESTE for a discount at checkout. Well, that was a fun question. I'm glad somebody asked that. I haven't asked this question in a while. I used to ask it on a lot of episodes. Do you have a favorite exercise that you do for shoulders and then for glutes and hamstrings?
So shoulders, and I had to stop training my shoulders a little bit because the judges were telling me that they're dominant. Um,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. But honestly, for shoulders, literally just lateral raises. I love, love, love lateral raises. And if you get on a cable, I'm a big proponent for mind muscle connection. I really think all exercises somewhat become equal as long as you're connecting with the muscle. I think that's the biggest piece. Because some people will ask me, well, how did you grow your glutes? And I'm like, you know, I can't tell you a specific exercise, but what I can tell you is when I'm working out, one, I really make sure I'm connecting with my muscles. And two, I will go hard. I can have a 10-pound dumbbell doing my lateral raises, but I'm going hard and I'm going slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, for shoulders, lateral raises. And I would say for glutes, oh, that's hard. I have so many favorites. I can tell you the ones I hate, but that I
Oh,
did not.
yeah.
Bulgarian split squats, I hate. But I
If
know,
someone says that they like those, then they have they have an illness.
yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. But yeah, Bulgarians are good. But probably my favorite leg exercise has to be a leg press.
Yeah, leg press is fun. My favorite leg press is the one, have you used it where like so the machine is like this in front of you and you're actually laying down
Oh
like
yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
So they had one at Gold's in Venice and
Uh,
I was like, this, I've never used this. Like I'm gonna try it out.
right.
Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. And then I signed up for a gym in my neighborhood when I moved. This was previously when I was living in Arizona,
Uh-huh.
and they had the machine, and I was like,
Oh,
oh.
nice.
Now, of
Oh,
course, I was not training legs very much because my feedback was those are too dominant compared to the upper body.
yeah.
Cool. So, but yeah, that leg press machine, I don't know if you've used that one, but money.
I have seen videos of it. I haven't had the chance to actually use one. I want to very badly. Very, very badly. I really
Yeah,
do.
I think you would love it,
Yeah.
honestly. What about the ones like, because there's different, right? There's even the ones that you're like laying underneath it. So are you talking about just the normal traditional leg press?
Yep.
Okay.
The normal traditional one. Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
do you
And
do it
it-
with a specific foot stance?
and that's literally what I was about to say, different foot placement. And I actually do all of them because I want to hit very specific parts. And so I'll pretty much do in one session, I can sit on the leg press for 45 minutes and annoy everybody because they want to use it. But I'm like, yeah, sorry, I'm doing different exercises. It just doesn't look like it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
This is
it works
step
out.
1 of 5 for this exercise.
Yes, yes.
Oh, well, that's awesome. So, this is the final question I ask everybody. So what would be your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for somebody on their road to pro?
So I think the best advice again would be just to be a student. So for my first ever show, I hadn't seen a show before, but I did a lot of research. I looked up who won before. I looked up what do they look like, who's winning shows just in general, and what do they look like? What does the posing look like? And you have to make sure that you're looking at things that are current. Because, like I
Mhm.
said, what it is today is not what it was 2 years ago. So if you find a video from 2 years ago and you think that's what's going to fly, that's not it. So just being a very avid student, being very dialed in to what judges want. And I guess the best way to do that is to just go watch a show. Yeah. And same for turning pro, just be the best student you can be, and show them the first time what they want to see, and you'll be on your way.
Love that.
Yeah.
How can people follow your journey, connect with you?
I'm mostly on Instagram. So it's my first name, NDYE_NDOUR_IFBB Pro. So yeah, I would love to have more friends. Let's talk. I really try to answer every single message and every single comment, because to me, people matter. So if you want to talk to me, send me something. I definitely will answer. And yeah, let's be friends.
I
Let's be
love
happy
that.
together.
Yes, seriously, you're so awesome and so genuine. So, to you guys listening, I will put that in the show notes. Of course, we always post on Instagram too. We post teaser leading up to the episode, as well as on the day of the episode. We're posting on the stories and the reels. That's at celestial_fit. The reason I say that is because I tag the athletes. So you'll be able to follow them straight away there. Or, of course, like I said, go to celestial.fit/podcast in the show notes page. You'll be able to see the link to her Instagram. And if you guys are listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe. That always means a lot. Tag us on Instagram when you finish listening. Let us know what you took away from this. That means a lot to me, but it means even more to the athletes, because they come on here, take their time out to share their stories with us so openly. Love to thank them for that. And thank you guys for listening. As always, really appreciate it. And Ndeye, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was really great. I've actually shared things here that I didn't even think I would share. So
Aw.
yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that we could do that together. So, to everybody listening, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.